what's going on? Welcome to the cutting room floor. And so we are just so excited to jump into some of John 7 and what we missed out on last week. But Chris, do you want to let us know some couple of announcements or things before we jump into the text?
The main thing to know is we're looking for questions on John 7, John 8. As we go through the cutting room floor, we're looking for you to ask questions, things you want to know about those texts. We'll take a look at them, and then the future cutting room floor videos will be answers to those questions. So make sure you do that.
Cool. Awesome. You heard that last week, but we're just going to keep peppering it in until we do it. So awesome. Well, yeah. So what do you have for us out of John 7 this week?
First off is a question. You came to Christ. I came to Christ.
Why do you always turn these on me?
What have been some of the waypoints in your process of coming to believe in Jesus?
Waypoints.
Yeah,
like milestones or markers? Or...
Yeah.
I feel like it wasn't necessarily a process. Well, I mean, I guess everything's a process, but it was more so just like intentional relationships with people who were way further along in their faith than I was, who shared the gospel with me, that cared about me relationally, but also wanted to answer my questions. So I think it really goes to that. Like, there were just a lot of questions. Like, it started with just questioning, is my faith my own or is it my mom's faith? Okay, let me go find that out. So I joined a church and started serving and started building relationships and started gathering in fellowship and hearing the gospel. And from that, there were more questions. And then there were kind of responses and life on life together. And then it would more questions up until the point where I was like, okay, I truly believe this. I want to live this out in my life. I want to be a disciple. I want to help make disciples. But the questions didn't stop there. But I guess it would just be hinged upon questions.
I think that piece about relationships is probably more universal.
Okay.
Like for just about everybody,
right.
Coming to Christ involves relationships that they might have had with a believer or someone who's willing to mentor them or answer questions,
right.
Someone who's witnessing to them. But another universal that you're mentioning is that your experience is probably different from other people's experiences, and that's true. Like, different people come to relationship with Christ differently.
Yeah.
And John's gospel is an example of that, where it's a collection of these different people who come to believe in Jesus differently. So in John 7, there's this conflict that's happening, and short version of it is the people, the common people and the religious leaders are all in conflict over who Jesus is.
Okay.
His character, whether he's a demon or deceiver, or whether he's a good person. His ability to teach, whether he's educated enough, his works and when he does them, what miracles he does and when, and then really his origin, whether he's from Galilee or Bethlehem or what the scriptures say. And so they're all in this conflict, and into this steps Nicodemus. And so I want to turn to Nicodemus real quick. John 7 in verse 50 says, Nicodemus, who had gone to him before, meaning to Jesus, and who was one of them, meaning one of the religious leaders, said to them, does our law judge a man without first giving him a hearing and learning what he does? They replied, are you from Galilee too? Search and see that no prophet arises from Galilee. So the setup is this. The religious leaders have sent these officers to go get Jesus. Officers come back without Jesus. And they say, where is he? And they say, well, you don't know what he said. Like, you need to hear these things that he said. And so they're like taking issue with the officers, saying, well, none of us are on board with this. And then Nicodemus says, hey, look, does our law judge a man without first giving him a hearing and learning what he does? So remember John 3. John 3 mentions Nicodemus. And Nicodemus there is kind of in confusion, a little bit of darkness, but he's coming to Jesus and he's asking genuine questions and he's trying to figure out what Jesus is saying.
Right.
Here, he's moved to a different waypoint. Here, he's willing to give Jesus a fair shake.
Even though he didn't believe.
I don't get the sense that he believes yet. Yeah. That this is more like, well, we can't judge this guy until we know more. He's willing to give him a fair shot. And it just reminds me that for all of us, our relationship with Jesus, as we come to that relationship, comes differently. And we go through some kind of phase, some kind of period, some kind of process of evaluating who he is.
Yeah. And for you, what was that like?
It started with this period of hearing the things of Christ through random situations and just being confused. And then there was a period where I was rejecting everything that I was hearing. And then there was a period where I wanted to know from anyone who would answer a question, like my in-laws, anyone who would answer a question, things about the Bible or things about Jesus.
Right.
There were periods of intense doubt, and there were periods of questioning. But my experience would be different from all of yours and yours. Yeah. And that's what John is filled with. He's filled with these relationships of, two disciples of John the Baptist who leave John and partner up with Jesus. Right. John the Baptist himself. You got the woman at the well who just has a conversation with him and hears what she needs to hear. Yeah. And then you have the townsfolk. You have these different people that are in different places, walks of life, steps along the way. Yeah. And they're coming to believe in Jesus, which is what John is writing for. Wants you to know all this stuff so that you will be able to believe. I want to end with this, is what the Pharisees and chief priests ask or challenge Nicodemus to do. It says, they replied, in verse 52, they replied, "Are you from Galilee too? Search and see that no prophet arises from Galilee." Now what's amazing about this is they're telling Nicodemus to do the exact thing that will bring him to faith in Christ. Search and see. Look in the scriptures. Right. Just go look at the scriptures, what they say about who's supposed to come and this one that's supposed to come. And I'll bet Nicodemus did exactly that. Went to the scriptures and found Jesus there. Yeah. And it just strengthened his faith right there. But that's not what they wanted to do.
Right. It had the complete opposite effect.
Yeah. That's the takeaway. Search and see. Yeah. Wherever you are on your spiritual walk, search and see. You'll find them. Yeah. And then you can strengthen your belief as you go.
I love it. Yeah. Awesome. Well, is there anything that you want them to do before?
Ask questions.
Perfect. Okay, that's it.
Got?
That's all.
Yep.
That's all. Awesome. All right. Well, Chris, thank you so much for taking us through this.
Thanks,
and we'll see you next week.
Yep.
All right. Peace out.
See you, folks.